Trump has now, after just a couple of weeks of the Trump Kennedy Center being a thing, turned it into what so many of his other businesses were, something that got a grand launch and then just shut down, never to be seen again. He is closing the Kennedy Center down for 2 years, and he's pretending that he's doing it so it can be renovated. But we're not gonna lie to you here on the damage report. He's doing it because he knows that they might literally have no shows over the next 2 years anyway. And if they do, it ain't gonna be anything to write home about. So here is what he posted on True Social. I'm not gonna read the whole thing because a theatrical performance of this would be a show at the Trump Kennedy Center. But he says after a year of reviewing it, that he's done interviews with contractors, musical experts, art institutions. Yeah, he was talking with all of them. He had to decide, basically, I'll shorthand this. Should we keep it open and do small renovations or just shut it down totally? And he's like, no, it's better to shut it down totally. Because then, you could do a better job and it'll be much faster. It's still under his plan gonna take 2 years, which conveniently means basically for the rest of his term as president, it won't be around. And so, yeah, he's gonna say it's because it's super nice, like marble or whatever. We just gotta shut it down. It really does seem, JR, like this is a massive admission that this has been a failure and that him taking it over and especially putting his name on it, not just figuratively, but literally putting his name on it means that they can no longer get anyone worth getting to perform there. And it would just be a constant embarrassment that they're basically getting I don't know, high school string choirs or whatever going in there. That's the most they could do. And so that's my theory. It's the theory that a lot of people have. I don't know. Do you buy at all the renovation cover story? No, I assume you do not.
Not at all. This is the thing. Even the high schools wouldn't want to go in there and do that. They leave like a stench on you. But by the way, he was just complaining before about how all these acts are starting to cancel their performances, taking the hit. He said he's going to sue some of them. Why does he think anyone's going to believe that he's now saying, we should shut it down for these renovation purposes? I wasn't just mad about it 2 months ago about how all the Christmas shows were getting disrupted, how protesters came in, how I had to put a bunch of sycophants up in the upper level to come and kiss my ass a little bit more. He thinks we're gonna forget all those things, as then he now acts like this is gonna be the new excuse or the reasons why they're shutting it down. Hey, when he was posting about all the marble armrests that he wanted to put everywhere, was he saying it's gonna be such a big renovation process, we're gonna work through all of it, pardon our dust, as we continue on? None of it was said. It was everything's gonna go smoothly. I know how to plan things. I'm always under budget. I'm beautiful. I'm perfect at this. He says all that stuff, and then when it doesn't work out that way, he says, you know what? I have the genius idea. We're gonna shut this whole thing down, make no money. Like I said, we were gonna make tons of money doing this. He keeps changing stories, and somehow he thinks people are gonna believe it. Even the people who support him are like, okay, yeah, this isn't working. Yeah, well, let's cover his ass. It's either the cover his ass group or the reality group. That's really all that happens with everything that he lies about.
Speaking of money, we don't know what the renovations are or how much they're gonna cost, or are we paying for it? Is Zuckerberg pay? We have literally no idea. And I don't know if we ever will. It's just up to him, I guess. He just gets to, we're a massive piggy bank that he can spend on whatever he wants. And I will just briefly mention a couple of the major operas that would work with the Kennedy Center have cut ties. The Washington National Opera is not working with it anymore. The National Symphony Orchestra has been playing to empty seats. Barely anybody showed up. Attendance was down 50% since his inauguration. So no, I don't think people aren't going because the seats aren't nice enough or whatever. I think they don't want to go to your thing. By the way, the last thing I'll say on this, I saw a movie this weekend, as I mentioned, and I was sitting in my seat, and you know what I never once thought? Man, these armrests should be made of marble. They were just this padded, comfortable thing. Really should have been hard stone, dumbass. Anyway, okay, I think we'll save the Arch thing for tomorrow. Why don't we move on to our final story and get JR's thoughts on it? Or actually, should we get some balance and do that with Yaz? Maybe that's a good idea, actually. Yeah, let's just go into the Arch actually with JR, and we'll end with even more art or whatever.
We're considering an arc that's like the triumphant parasite. So for 200 years, they've wanted to build an arc. There are 57 cities throughout the world that have them. We're the only major city, Washington, D.C., that does it. The circle prior to the bridge, the Arlington Bridge, has been waiting for hundreds of years to have this done. So we have an unbelievable arc that I think will be the most beautiful in the world.
Biggest arc, big arc, huge. Very huge, as we will describe. And look, I love to point out when he lies in his video, but I mean, nobody can dispute he's right. Your entire life, you've been wondering, when are they gonna build the arch? Obviously, for hundreds of years. I've literally never heard anyone say that. By the way, apparently there are lots of them around the world. If you wanted to have some kind of arch, I guess you could do it. And if that was the only thing he was doing, I don't think a lot of people would have problems with it. But when you're wrecking the golf courses there and you took out the East Wing and you put your name on the Kennedy Center, kind of feels like there's a pattern here of this being about you and massive wastes of money. But it is a waste of money and it will be massive. He apparently wants to make it 250 feet tall, which is pretty big. Now, he had considered smaller versions of the arch, including a 165-foot high version, 123-foot high version. And he was like, nah, you know what? I think it should be bigger. First time in his life he's ever said that. And 250 for 250, with our anniversary. That's why we're gonna do it. Weird that this is exactly how the ballroom stuff played out. You keep showing him bigger versions and he keeps saying bigger, bigger, bigger. And so here's the design, which by the way, that's just AI art. That's not how big it's gonna be. You look at the scale of the person, it's gonna be like 5 times bigger than that. And for I guess, global perspective, he shared this. He was super excited about one of these other arches around the world. So he's like, India's beautiful triumphal arch. Ours will be the greatest of them all. And you take a look at that photo and you can look it up. It's pretty big and it commemorates the soldiers of theirs that had died or whatever. That looks really big, right? That looks huge. I mean, that's pretty big. That one is 138 feet tall. Ours will literally be twice as tall as that. And there is no reason. Now look, maybe we can have people from DC weigh in, but it's not a super high city. It is going to overwhelm all of the other monuments and not in a good way. This guy has no taste. He doesn't understand at all how proportion works and how you balance these things. It is going to be so huge and so gaudy and so ridiculous. It's basically him in stone form. What do you think, JR?
Well, that is the plan. By the way, he said, you do possibly remember this time, John, during the campaign when Kamala Harris and Donald Trump were arguing at the debate over who's gonna build the ark that the American people have been wanting for hundreds and hundreds of years. That was the campaign promise that everyone wanted. It was like the #1 campaign promise. That is until Donald Trump came in to talk about how it's all about him. This is just a big triumph to himself. By the way, the last person probably that you heard talk about how they saw someone else's ark and then want to build their own of their own grandeur was this one guy. I can't remember his name. Like maybe his initials were A and H, Adolf. And that's the same guy. If you want to look it up, I talked about this before when he first mentioned this whole thing. Adolf wanted his own larger, more grand ark because he saw, I believe it was France's, and he said, I want a better one because I need to build a monument to my Nazis and my takeover of the world because we need to show how much better we are than everyone else. It didn't get completed because he lost, and in the middle of his plans for this building in this structure, it didn't really come through. But it was one of the #1 things on his mind. You know what? I love how history repeats itself. I'm gonna bank on that happening again. And this guy wanting to have another one of these. By the way, the other part about this, India's, as you mentioned, it commemorates soldiers that died or something. It's weird. Donald Trump is mentioning any soldiers, isn't mentioning anything about Americans, isn't mentioning anything about our history, isn't mentioning nothing about this arc that means nothing, that has zero function outside of another example of his thoughts of making himself bigger than he really is. He's so small and he needs to keep telling people, well, I'm gonna build something that shows I'm big. He's such a small person in every aspect.
100%, yeah. Yeah, Octoscodes had pointed out, remember when he said, and when he first ran, build that arch, build that arch, like this, and tell me again that he's a populist and he's anti-elite and everything. By the way, I looked it up, the Arc de Triomphe, the main one that people think of in Paris or whatever, is 50% smaller than the one that he wants to build. Obviously, that's probably the thing they punched into ChatGPT. Can I make it 50% bigger than Macron's? That's probably what it is. Also, I just discovered that you can apparently go on top of that one and see like all of Paris around you, and that sounds lovely.
You know what TYT has always been about? Taking on the corrupt, greedy establishment. For us, it's the corporate media. We've been fighting that fight for over 20 years. For the cell phone industry, it's the same story. A handful of massive corporations ripping you off. That's why we're partnering with Noble Mobile. They're the only wireless company with the same mission as ours, to fight back. Their Noble plan offers unlimited data for just $50 a month. But here's the best part. For any data that you don't use, you get cash back. Real money you can spend however you want. Stop letting your unused data pad the pockets of billionaires. With Noble, you take control over your data. And by switching to Noble, you're directly supporting TYT in our mission of bringing you honest, independent news. So give Noble a try and make the switch today. Scan the QR code on the screen now or visit go.tyt.com/plan. That's go.tyt.com/plan.